Warning, this review contains spoilers. So I just watched the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and it was meh. I mean, it's nice to finally get a movie of FNAF, but damn, it was poorly written sometimes. Now, before I go through the entire movie, I'll just list off the few positives I had with it. Now, I do think that the animatronics suits looked well made, even though the animatronics weren't, actually animatronics and instead just suits with actors inside. They did a good job with the robotic movements to them. We also have our main character, Mike Schmidt. Now in the game, Mike doesn't have any, actual personality. He's simply just there, but in the movie, Mike is a rather developed character, and we at least get an explanation as to why Mike returns to his job, compared to the game, where he simply returns because, well, game has to happen. He also has a backstory, which also explained his hostile behavior towards people he suspects are kidnappers, as shown in the mall scene where he beats up a man thinking it was a child kidnapper, but he was actually the child's dad. The areas were also well made, it had a close resemblance to the first game's visuals and environment, so I gotta give props to that. I also liked the MatPat and Korik's Kenshin cameos, and it was also a nice touch that they added the original FNAF song in the ending credits. The beginning credits used the typical minigame cutscenes, similar to the main franchise too. But that's what I have to say about the positives. Now let's go through the movie and delve deeper into the negatives of it. So the movie starts with a night guard in the office trying to unscrew a vent cover. The door is blocked with chairs and we hear a banging outside. The night guard unscrews the vent and crawls through it. He also gets to the storage and the vent leading to that room is bolted. How convenient. The guard runs away from the room and we see a shadow of Foxy while the guard is running through the hall. The lights turn off one by one because, it's a horror movie. And then Foxy runs up to the guard. The next scene features the guard strapped to a chair and then we see a Freddy mask filled with saw blades slowly approaching the guard's face. After a short while, the guard dies by the mask. Now, while looking at the scene, I thought it was rather bizarre that this device had such an obvious design flaw on the restraints. But more importantly, why the fuck is this device even there? Why not just make the animatronics kill the guard and then stuff them into a suit, like in the games? Anyways, the guard dies and we get the beginning credits. We're then introduced to Mike Schmidt and his sister Abby, who most people mistook her for being Mike's daughter, myself included. Mike works as a security guard in a mall, and he's having a conversation with a guy about the dream theory, which is actually an important part in the story. So Mike goes to an ice cream shop and he sees a kid being lonely and then getting taken away by a man. This causes him to sprint towards the guy and beat the shit out of him. Now, I thought it was odd that Mike just went off to the most extreme measure and that the beating was serving as a plot device so that Mike would get fired and then be employed at Freddy's. But the movie later explains that Mike had a brother who also got kidnapped in the past, which clarifies his hostile behavior, so I'm gonna give this one a pass and give credit where credit is due. We now get introduced to Steve Raglan, Mike's career counselor, who brings up all the times Mike has been fired, and due to Mike's history, is offered one job at, you guessed it, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. Mike contemplates the job and we get introduced to Max, a babysitter for Abby. Mike walks into Abby's room and we see her drawing pictures of her friends, who are imaginary. But again, this is a horror movie, so it's no surprise that these are the children who got murdered before. Abby acts like a dick towards Mike and he throws a burn towards her.
You're an idiot.
At least I'm real.
Which makes him my favorite character in the movie. Mike goes to sleep and we get to see Mike's backstory of his brother getting kidnapped while they were camping. Mike wakes up and we're introduced to Mike's aunt, Jane, who acts like a stereotypical evil aunt who wants to take Mike's custody of Abby. Now, there's no sort of explanation as to why she's so spiteful of Mike, but I guess we'll just need to go with it. The teacher advises Mike to get a job, which results in Mike taking Steve's earlier offer. Mike starts the duty while we hear a voiceover of Steve talking about the restaurant, the owner of it, and Mike's job. Mike turns on the power to the restaurant and watches a video talking about the job and the establishment. When the woman in the tape introduces the animatronics, then the tape begins to glitch, because that's scary. Okay. A common cliche in various FNAF videos is that the animatronics or videos glitch to add a scare effect to them, but it's just not scary, it's just annoying. Can people stop with that? Anyways, Mike opens up one of the lockers and we get a forced jump scares by a balloon boy figure. If they didn't use a loud noise, it wouldn't have an effect. Mike then starts to sleep and experiences the same dream, except that he sees 5 children behind him after he witnesses the kidnapping. The children split up and he chases towards one of them before slipping on a rock and waking up, with the clock being 6 am. Mike returns home and we see Max again. We're introduced to a restaurant where we get a MatPat cameo. Yay! So they do that by breaking into the restaurant and vandalizing it, which in turn would get Mike fired. Now let's talk about Jane for a minute. Again, we get no sort of explanation as to why she hates Mike so much. I mean, she even says that the alternative of killing Mike is tempting. Like, couldn't they give at least some sort of reason? Despite Jane being a rather major character here, she's entirely one-dimensional due to not having any sort of explanation or depth put into her. Anyways, Mike returns to the shift and sleeps to experience his dream again. The children split and run away from him, but this time he catches on to a kid, who slashes his arm and screams at him with the worst special effects I've ever seen. Mike wakes up and notices that a woman named Vanessa is visiting him in the middle of his shift. She notices that Mike is bleeding, and for some reason, Mike doesn't seem to question it at all. So let me get this straight. Mike has a dream where a kid cuts his arm, he wakes up with a wound in the exact same area where the kid slashed him, and he doesn't question it? Like, at all? Vanessa does question the wound, but both of them gloss over it shortly afterward. Anyways, look at the animatronics performing, but it doesn't really add anything. They have some conversation about the missing children, and Mike gets his badge. When the two leave, the thugs we mentioned earlier break into the restaurant and they vandalize it. One of them goes into the kitchen and finds a cupcake in the fridge, which disappears after he looks away. He sees Chica holding a cupcake, the cupcake charges towards him, and we get to see the funniest scene in the entire movie. The thug in the kitchen gets devoured by the cupcake, and the other one runs into the supply closet where Bonnie is. Like what? Was Bonnie just hiding in there, just waiting for the thug to enter? And Bonnie walks out, staring at the last thug. He runs away, hides in the office, stops the cupcake from entering through the office's vent, and then exits the office. Foxy then kills him. Max notices that the thugs haven't returned, so she enters the building alone. She sees a child out of nowhere who runs away. Guess what Max does? Since she's both stupid and hasn't seen any horror movie in her life, she runs after the kid. Classic cliche. Max walks towards the Freddy suit after hearing the kid's voice inside it. And then another funny scene happens. A hand comes out from Freddy's mouth, grabs Max and bites her body in half. Now, these recent deaths are showing that the movie is going for an over-the-top kind of theme, but personally, I don't really think it fits that much due to the ominous ambience that the games contain. Like, the more I watch the movie, the more convinced I get that Scott was a part of the first, 15 minutes of the movie, and then was just cut out. I refuse to believe that this is the kind of feeling I would want to have for a movie that is based on his game. So Mike gets a visit by Vanessa, who shares the news that Freddy's got robbed. Mike explains about his ordeal and she doesn't share a report, due to Vanessa feeling sympathy for him. Awesome. Since Max is, dead, Mike is forced to bring Abby with him to his shift. She gets told by Mike to never go outside of the office and she sleeps inside while Mike exits. He doesn't seem to give a shit that there's a splat of blood on the door to the supply closet. Side note, why is the handprint gone all of a sudden? He also heard that there were burglars there yesterday, and they've never been found. Shouldn't that come off as a red flag, you dumb bastard? Anyway, Mike cleans the entire area and we see the perspective of a dead child approaching Abby, creepily whispering her name. So of course, since she's a child in a horror movie, she wanders off despite being told not to. Mike has a dream again where he's asking one of the children to find Garrett's kidnapper in the promise that he'll give anything they want. He hears Abby screaming and rushes outside to see the animatronics, not harming her in any way. They drive back home and Mike rummages through Abby's drawings and eventually sees one obviously showing the kids. But the writers think we're too stupid to see that, so Mike just explains it just in case. Mike tries to get answers from Abby about Garrett, but to no avail. Abby mentions that the kids talk about a yellow rabbit, and she offers to ask the children about Garrett. The two return to the restaurant, and Vanessa's there. Then we get a scene that caught me off guard. We see all of the characters build a fort while some upbeat music plays. Bonnie falls over and gives a thumbs up when asked if he's okay, as if this over the top horror movie was all of a sudden a cartoon show. Now, I don't think I'll need to explain why I dislike that scene. It doesn't fit whatsoever with the game nor the setting that the movie has displayed. It's also pretty much filler, like nothing comes out of this scene. So it could have just been cut out and it would leave us a better result. Vanessa and Mike leave for the storage room and notices a springlock suit. Mike becomes increasingly desperate to find out Garrett's kidnapper, but Vanessa tells him to let it go, causing a little conflict. Abby later gets hurt by striking Bonnie's guitar, and the three exit the building. Mike notices that Vanessa looked terrified in the storage, and Vanessa says this:
Do whatever you want with your own life, but if you ever bring Abby back here again, I will shoot you.
Well, he could have maybe said that they weren't dangerous earlier, instead of keeping it as a secret just because. You were aware of the dangers before, so why are you pissed off at him? Next morning, Mike decides to leave custody to Jane. Unsurprisingly, Abby gets pissed off and leaves. Mike buys some sleeping pills and returns to the restaurant. He experiences the same dream again. The kids reveal that they want Abby, and Mike gets severely injured by the children. He then wakes up strapped to that machine we saw in the beginning. For fuck's sake. Now, it's obvious that Mike gets the same injuries in real life when he gets them in his dreams. So why the hell didn't the children just kill him immediately? Like slit his throat or something? Why strap him to that machine, which is actually easy to break out of? The animatronics were clearly intending to kill him, so why not just kill him and that's it? They killed these thugs without issue, so why didn't they do the same for Mike? Because plot armor, that's why. Mike lets go of his restraints easily and goes for the exit door, but he can't open it. He sees Fox in the hallway, who then charges towards him, and in the last second, the exit door is suddenly unlocked. What? Why did it open now? It's implied later in the movie that Vanessa found Mike wounded by the pizzeria, so maybe she unlocked the door, and if that's the case, how would she know that he was by that specific door? And Jesus, that is definitely some convenient timing. And if it's because the exit door is just faulty, then that's straight up lazy. We cut back to Jane telling Abby to get out of her room, but she refuses, so Jane goes to watch TV in the living room. But here's the kicker. Freddy appears right behind her and kills her off. Now, how did Freddy know exactly where Abby was? I don't know. And even if it is some sort of paranormal explanation, how did he get all the way there? I can't imagine it's pretty far away since Mike is always driving his car to the pizzeria. You're willing to tell me that nobody saw Freddy walking towards the house, and they just choose to ignore it? And if he teleported, again, that's lazy. So Abby and Freddy take a taxi where we also get a Corix Kenshin cameo. Yay! Anyways, even though a 7 feet animatronic sits in the taxi, the cab driver doesn't question it and decides to drive them to the pizzeria, because the plot told the driver to do so. We cut back to Mike and Vanessa in a police supply outpost, and Mike's injuries have just been treated. Mike calls Vanessa out for not warning him about the lethality of the animatronics, which is fair enough, and the fact that she let Abby play with them. Vanessa then says the animatronics are actually planning to make Abby into an animatronic. We see Freddy and Abby back at the pizzeria, and while Abby enters the building, Freddy disappears all of a sudden. Vanessa gives some commentary about how William Afton killed the children and stuffed them inside the suits and controls them via the drawings. Now, I'm not sure how William managed to make the children all of a sudden forget that he murdered them, because even though they didn't see his face, they still know it's a yellow rabbit. So why are they obeying him even if they're aware that it was a yellow rabbit who killed them? We then get to know that William is Vanessa's father. Mike also realizes that Vanessa was aware of the fact that William was the one who kidnapped Garrett. What? Obviously, William is a child serial killer, but why did he choose to murder Garrett of all people? Why did he do it in the middle of a camping site during daytime? I guess family doesn't even seem to be familiar with the restaurant, so Garrett's murder is entirely unrelated. Mike gets equipped with a taser and stun baton. He enters the restaurant and spots Abby walk into the backstage with Chica. He's almost spotted by Freddy, but later on just ignores the noise. Mike pours some liquid, which I assume is water, onto the animatronics and then he electrocutes both of them, showing some more cheesy special effects. Chica almost stops Abby into the suit, but she runs out and then Mike electrocutes the animatronic. As the two run out, we see that the cupcake again is chasing them and bites onto Mike's leg. Good thing it didn't just kill him off by devouring his face instead, like it did with the fog we saw earlier. Abby runs away and hides behind one of the arcade machines, while Foxy is searching for her. Mike finally electrocutes a cupcake. Abby hides in the ball pit after Foxy almost finds her. But Foxy spots her hiding there, so he all of a sudden walks slowly towards a ball pit instead of running for it like he usually does. Because again, horror movie. What's with the horror movie antagonists obviously suspecting that their victim is hiding somewhere, yet they slowly walk towards the hiding spot, buying the protagonist more time to actually get out and avoid the antagonist. Anyways, Mike wanders out of the back area, trying to find Abby, and then we get introduced to Spring Bonnie! Mike tries to tase him, but it doesn't work, and then Spring Bonnie charges towards him and pushes him right across the room. Fred is now right above the ball pit, but he gets tased by Vanessa. We're seeing Mike and Spring Bonnie again. He talks about killing Garrett. Again, why did he even do that? Was it just because? William wakes up the other animatronics, and we have yet another cliche where William has a long monologue about killing Mike too and all that jazz. So like I said earlier, he gets interrupted by Vanessa. He takes off the mask, revealing it to be Steve Raglan, who's actually William Afton. Now, I'm not going to call it a predictable plot twist because it wasn't really a plot twist. Because one, it was painfully obvious. Matthew Lillard's name also gets shown in the beginning credits, showcasing Spring Bonnie too. Given the over-the-top writing this movie has, it's most likely not meant to be a plot twist, so I'll give the movie the benefit of the doubt. Mike tells Abby to make a drawing so the animatronics know that William is a killer. William pins Vanessa to the wall, preparing to kill her, but he sees Abby making the drawing, so he walks towards her. Vanessa tries to stop him, but he stabs her in the stomach. Alright. If William's morality is so low that he's willing to kill his own daughter, why did he stab her in the stomach? My guy, you slit her throat and then she won't be a problem to you. And it's so goddamn out of place for William, who's depicted as a cunning and intelligent murderer. Both in the game and in the beginning of the movie. The protagonists win over William because he's all of a sudden a moron, not because they're necessarily intelligent. Abby pins up the drawing, the animatronics see it. The cupcake bites into the suit, causing William to get spring-locked. William picks up the mask, says his famous line in the corniest way possible,
I always come back.
and then puts the mask on. I don't know why he would put the mask on, but alright. The three protagonists exit the building, and we cut back to them again. Abby is being more social towards the other children. Abby and Mike get a stronger bond between each other, and Vanessa is recovering from her injuries. We see William dying in the suit and the main child closes the door, revealing the ending credits. So Mike and Abby are gonna care about Jane being dead? She got murdered in their living room. Like, wasn't there any sort of suspicion towards them, considering that the three had a rocky relationship in the past? What happened to their body? We're just gonna go with it? Alright, fine. We also get another post-credit scene with Corix Kenshin getting jumpscared by the Balloon Boy thing. So in conclusion, the FNAF has good production value and it didn't completely change the story like a lot of video games movies tend to do. Like, it's not terrible, but I think they made a lot of bizarre choices for it. I don't really care that much about the movie not being completely accurate to the lore, because the game's lore is overly convoluted and filled with various holes and contradictions, so yeah. It's clear that the people behind the movie had the fans of the series in mind most of the time, proven by the cameos and the ending credits song, but the movie contains a lot of holes, cliches, and over-the-top moments which don't fit due to the game's established atmosphere, especially the first installment, which the movie mostly inspires from. Personally, the movie should have relied more on the game's mechanics such as the doors and cameras, which would have kept the simple game design that made the series a successful franchise. In the end, the movie is slightly below average, so my ending score is a 4 out of 10. Thanks for watching the review, and adios.